Let's go to Republican Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi on all these fast-moving developments. And Attorney General, very good to have you. What do you make of these latest revelations? In fact, now this is the third piece of information we have that apparently authorities of various types had access to. And this one, a Snapchat video showing the shooter harming himself and even talking about buying a gun. Now, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. I like to stress that, but we have a lot of such pieces of information. What do you think of that?
Well, Neil, I mean, you can't even say dropping the ball. That's such an understatement. What a total lack of investigation occurred, and it's horrible what happened. I know it. The information never made it to Rob Lasky. He is the SAC, the special agent in charge in Miami, and he was on that scene. He was incredible, and he brought 200 FBI agents in. I watched those great agents work for 3 days there. It's been incredible, the good agents, but somewhere higher on the chain, never made it again to South Florida, but someone dropped the ball. And it's tragic, it's horrible. Warning signs were everywhere. And being at that scene for 3 days and those 17 families, it's truly heartbreaking.
But let me ask you, Governor Rick Scott has already said these revelations that are coming now out of the FBI and warranted apology by Director Christopher Wray, that Wray should go, that he should leave.
Well, I think General Sessions is going to do a full investigation. I think Chris Wray has only been with the FBI about 5 months at the helm. And, you know, some of these happened prior. I think one did happen January when he was here. But let's see what he does. And if he does a full investigation and the people who had that information and did not do anything with it, they are the ones that need to go. Chris Wray needs to investigate it. And I'm sure General Sessions will, too, and Rod Rosenstein. But you know, Neil, if I could, please, that's why it's so important. Don't let this, parents and kids, deter you from reporting something. You must. Kids are all on Snapchat, Neil. If you and I could Snapchat now, it's crazy what they do. They're Snapchatting things. And kids are seeing this. They have got to tell their parents. And parents, you have got to call it in. I've been saying I'd rather you be wrong 100% of the time. No. So would the FBI, so would law enforcement. You got to report it because we don't know. Nothing's a hoax anymore.
Well, I know what you're saying, Attorney General, but, you know, you're quite right to say if you see something, say something. In this case, and back to the December 5th phone call into the FBI, they did say something for quite a while. Whoever this person was who seemed to know Nicholas Cruz quite well, detailed all of this, and it fell through the cracks. Again, you disagree with the Florida governor who says that Wray should go. You think that we should first look into this before we make a push like that?
No, I'm not saying I disagree with Governor Scott. Governor Scott was on the ground with me nonstop. He was with those families. He was in the hospital. He is outraged. I think he is outraged by the response that Christopher Wray gave, saying, well, we'll get to the bottom of it. I think he believes these families deserved more, deserved a stronger response, saying whoever did this will be fired, they will be held accountable. And I agree with him that that needs to happen. Let's see what Christopher Wray does next.
The offer that you made to pay, or the state to pay for all these funerals, were you the genesis of that? The governor? It was a collective idea?
It's our entire state. The state of Florida does that. It runs through my office. So I'm the one with the victims' advocates, but it's our great state that does this. And we pick up any funeral expenses that aren't covered by other sources such as insurance and other benefits. But it's horrible to have to do that. I had all my advocates there on the scene, just like in Pulse. We flew to Nevada. We were there in Nevada. And, of course, we were there in Broward County for days.
Did you do the same with that? In other words, pay for those funerals?
Well, not Nevada, of course. We don't have jurisdiction,
but the ones
we went
at the Pulse nightclub in Florida, was it the same deal?
Absolutely, absolutely. And let me tell you what else,
Senator. So that's Florida policy.
That's Florida policy, and it's great. And my advocates, they just got in their cars and drove from all over the state to Broward. They were there with me. They've been there nonstop, helping these families. Having to inform 17 families that their child is never coming home is one of the worst things a human being can do. And my heart wrenches for these families. It's horrible. It's gut-wrenching. But there are many who survived, and we've got to pray for them. We've got to pray for their families. I was in the hospital, saw 3 of the victims and their amazing families yesterday, and they're going to recover. You know, but there are thousands of kids who are injured emotionally, and that's not going to go away. And we're going to help them as well. My advocates and my office, we do this. We help provide counseling directly to them. And the superintendent of schools has been great. Everyone's been amazing. One of the families is from out of the country. Senator Rubio was there right away to help us expedite visas for them. And again, Rick Scott, our governor, was on the ground nonstop. Sheriff Israel and his department, you know, having to see such a horrific scene like that and help these families. You see a lot of bad, but you see a lot of good during a horrible, horrible tragedy.
Well, let me ask you about that. You also saw a lot of good with the President of the United States coming down and visiting those who are still in the hospital. He has referred to this, and I know he's still in Florida, but as a mental health issue, he is so far not talked about this move that others have to sort of find a way to get a crackdown on gun ownership. Even conservative senators, conservative newspapers and editorial boards, New York Post and others have said we've got to get a handle on this. Do you think he should say something like it? Do you think that this is bigger than just a mental health issue, that we've got to rein in the number of guns out there?
I think mental health is at the root of it. I've been a prosecutor, as you know, since I was in my early 20s. I had a stalker for 4 years. And when I was in my early 20s, I had to defend myself. I got a gun. I learned how to shoot a gun. My father gave me a gun. The law enforcement taught me how to shoot it. I had to defend myself for 4 years from someone who was after me. And he ultimately ended up jumping off a bridge and killing himself. So from personal experience, I believe everyone should be allowed to defend themselves. As to the assault rifles, this person had no business having one because of his mental health issues. I sat on the President's Opioid Commission, and I will continue to say our country is lacking in mental health for our citizens. We're lacking. We've got to do more. We've got to be able to ensure people to get the mental health that they need. So this to you is, I just want to be clear, you agree, it seems with the president, it's a mental health issue. It's not a guns issue. You don't believe there are too many guns out there, let alone whether people with some mental issues should be getting them. That's not the issue to you. Well, I believe no one with mental health issues should be having guns. Of course, it's ridiculous. We're also seeing tragedies with people driving into people, and you can make a bomb on the internet now. It's horrible. So we've got to focus on the person and doing everything we can to get these people help and get them off the streets. And again, parents have got to be vigilant. Kids have been great. And Neil, we've had so many reports since this because there are copycats, which are as big of a threat. But people have been flooding in. Night before last, I was on the phone with the police chief. The next morning, the FBI, because people were telling me, they were hearing me say, don't be, people think, well, it could be a hoax. I don't want to call something in that might not come to fruition.
No,
we
would
rather you call it in.
Do you think that someone, regardless of the mental issues involved here, we're led to believe that Nicholas Cruz bought this gun when he was 18. Should you raise the age at which anyone can buy a firearm, let's say to 21? Do you think that's something to discuss?
Well, you can go fight for our country when you're 18. You know, our military, you know, 18 years old, you're in the military carrying guns. I don't think the age as much as the person, the individual themselves. You know, we can look at him individually, but we have got to do something to crack down on mental health and mental health issues with people who own guns. That has got to stop. We've also, Neil, we have got to secure our schools because people could come in with a bomb, with something else. We have got to make our schools safer.
This school had an armed guard who just was nowhere near the shooter when he came in. Do you think we should have more armed guards?
Neil, that high school was huge.
Oh, I know.
It's one of the biggest high schools I've seen. One of the biggest high schools I've seen, and as we know, that the defendant had been to the high school, so he knew how to get in and out of the high school. So I think we need more armed guards at our bigger schools. I firmly believe in that, in making our students safe while they are at school from many different things. Somebody could have a knife at a school. We have to have multiple sources to keep our kids safe at school. It's got to be multifaceted, and the president deeply cares about that. He spent a very long time with us last night asking lots of questions.
Do you know what his plans are today, by the way?
I don't.
Okay. Attorney General, thank you very, very much. Very good seeing you again.
You too, Neil. Thank you. Pray for the families.
Indeed.